everything and anything. I'm Isaac.
I'm Annie.
And today we are deep diving into one of hip-hop's most enduring mysteries.
No.
Biggie's Who Shot Ya? Did he write it about Tupac?
Big question.
Was this the spark that lit the fire of their infamous rivalry?
It's a question that's been debated for decades, and honestly, I'm not sure we'll ever have a definitive answer, but that's what makes it so fascinating.
Right.
We've got all your research, Isaac, and it looks like a lot to unpack.
Yeah, it is, and you've got the expertise to help us break it all down. So
Let's do it.
let's start with the song's origin story.
Okay.
This track wasn't even meant for Biggie, right?
Right. It was originally intended as an interlude for Mary J. Blige's album My Life.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine that?
Can you imagine?
It's hard to picture Who Shot Ya. Just feels so quintessentially Biggie.
Exactly. It seems like the producers kind of agreed with that sentiment as well.
Okay.
They deemed it too hard for her R&B album. Even Mary J. Blige's album track K. Murray Interlude uses the instrumental,
Oh, wow.
but it's cut short, almost like the record execs panicked.
Really?
And you can hear Puffy, he even jumps in and says, "Yo, Big Chuck, put on some of that smooth shit, man."
Oh, wow. That's really interesting.
It is.
It's almost like they knew this beat had a life of its own,
Right.
and it needed a certain kind of voice to bring it to life.
A harder voice.
A harder voice, yeah.
And that voice ended up being Biggie's. But before the song was officially released, there was another version circulating on mixtapes, featuring a verse from Keith Murray.
Okay.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting.
Right.
This mixtape version existed before Tupac was shot in November '94.
Okay, so that right there, that throws a wrench into the whole diss track theory, right?
Right.
If this version was already out there before the shooting, how could it be about Tupac?
I mean, yeah, that's one way to look at it.
Right.
But then you have to consider the timing of the official release, which came just months after the Quad Studios incident.
Right.
And, of course, the lyrical content itself is undeniably aggressive.
Absolutely.
We should talk about those lyrics.
Let's do it.
Okay, so you've got lines like electrical tape around your daughter and I make your skin chafe, rashes on the masses.
Yeah, it's chilling stuff, no doubt.
It is, and those lines are precisely why so many people believe the song is a diss.
Uh-huh.
You know, Biggie is known for his dark humor and vivid imagery, but these lines feel particularly menacing, and even more so.
Yeah.
The way he delivers them with that calm, almost detached tone adds another layer of intensity.
It's not just the words themselves.
Right.
It's the delivery and the context that give them so much weight.
Exactly.
But Biggie himself denied that the song was about Tupac.
He did?
He claimed it depicted a drug deal gone wrong.
Uh-huh.
What do you make of that?
It's a plausible explanation.
Right.
Drug deals gone wrong are unfortunately a part of the reality that Biggie rapped about.
Right.
But you just can't ignore the timing. And the fact that, for many listeners, those lyrics felt like a direct threat.
Especially given the tension that was already building between Biggie and Tupac at the time.
Yeah, and speaking of tension,
Yeah.
the Quad Studios shooting itself is crucial to understanding the public's perception of Who Shot Ya.
Okay.
Tupac was shot 5 times and robbed in the lobby of the studio.
Oh, wow.
Puffy and Andre Harrell were present that night,
Oh, really?
which only fueled the rumors and conspiracy theories.
And this is all before the East Coast-West Coast rivalry really explodes, right?
Yes, the rivalry was brewing, but the Quad Studios incident really turned up the heat. And then while Tupac is in jail, he does an interview with Vibe magazine and openly accuses Biggie and Puffy of setting him up. Yeah, that interview was a bombshell.
Really?
He claimed they knew about the shooting beforehand, that they acted suspiciously when he arrived at the studio, and from that moment on, Who Shot Ya became inextricably linked to the shooting and to the growing rivalry between Biggie and Tupac.
Wow, it's amazing how one song can become so central to a cultural moment.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't intended as a diss track, the context and the timing just transformed its meaning.
Absolutely. And let's not forget about the power of the instrumental as well.
Right.
You know, that haunting loop from I'm Afraid the Masquerade is Over.
Yeah.
It gives the song an almost ominous quality, like a soundtrack to the drama that was unfolding.
It's interesting that you bring up the music itself because
Yeah.
even people close to Biggie have disputed the whole diss track theory.
They have.
We've got a quote here.
Okay.
Checky Thompson, a producer on Biggie's Ready to Die album, said, "I still have that recording with me today." And him saying that phrase had absolutely nothing to do with Tupac.
Right, and you have other figures like Lil Cease and DJ Mr. C, who were in Biggie's circle at the time. They've also said that Who Shot Ya wasn't about Tupac.
So interesting.
It is, but it's hard to ignore the public's perception, especially with Tupac explicitly calling Biggie out.
It's like this cloud of suspicion was hanging over the song.
Uh-huh.
No matter what Biggie said.
Right.
It couldn't be separated from the events that unfolded.
Exactly.
Makes you wonder.
Yeah.
What even makes a song a diss track?
Yeah.
Is it the artist's intention, or is it how the audience interprets it?
It's a great question. It really is.
It is.
And a difficult one to answer.
Yeah.
In this case, you have Biggie denying it.
Right.
But then you have Tupac's response, hit him up, which leaves no room for interpretation.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's a vicious, no-holds-barred attack.
Yeah, and that's when things really escalated, right?
Yeah.
The East Coast-West Coast rivalry went from simmering tension to all-out war.
Absolutely, and I think you have to understand, this wasn't just about two rappers beefing.
Okay.
It became a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
Media outlets were fanning the flames.
Right.
Fans were choosing sides.
Oh, wow.
It was a dangerous and volatile time in hip-hop.
So we have the song Who Shot Ya?
Uh-huh.
It was originally intended for someone else.
Right.
Even Biggie claimed it wasn't a diss track.
Yeah.
But then you have the shooting at Quad Studios,
Right.
Tupac's accusations, and this explosive cultural context.
Right.
It's no wonder the song just took on a life of its own.
It really did, and tragically, that life ended in bloodshed.
Yeah.
Both Biggie and Tupac were murdered within a year of each other.
That's right.
Their deaths cast a long shadow over hip-hop, and Who Shot Ya remains a symbol of that tumultuous era.
It's a reminder that words have power.
Yeah.
Especially when amplified by music and cultural context.
Right.
And sometimes, even when an artist says a song isn't about something,
Yeah.
the public's perception can just become the dominant narrative.
Absolutely, and that perception can have real-world consequences.
Yeah.
In this case, it contributed to a rivalry that spun out of control and ultimately led to tragedy.
Wow.
It's a cautionary tale about the power of music, the weight of words, and the importance of context.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener?
I think it encourages us to think critically about the music we consume,
Right.
to consider the artist's intention, but also to understand how context and perception shape meaning, and to remember that sometimes the truth is just way more complicated than we might initially believe.
Well said.
Thank you.
Who Shot Ya is a song that continues to spark debate and analysis.
It does.
And it serves as a powerful reminder of the complex interplay between music, culture, and history.
Yeah, it almost feels like we're playing detective.
Oh, yeah.
Piecing together the clues to try and figure out the truth behind this whole Who Shot Ya thing.
Yes.
And even with all the information that's available, we're left with more questions than answers.
That's true.
What stands out to you as the most compelling piece of this puzzle?
For me, it has to be the Keith Murray mixtape version. The fact that a version of the song existed before Tupac was shot is just significant detail that you just can't ignore. It challenges the whole narrative.
Right.
That this song was a direct response to the Quad Studios incident. I totally agree. It muddies the waters considerably.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, you've got Puffy's involvement in the single release.
Right.
You know, his hype man style, almost urging listeners to see it as a diss.
Yeah.
It's hard to know if that was intentional or just his usual over-the-top persona.
I think Puffy's presence definitely adds another layer of complexity here.
It does.
He was just so intertwined with Biggie's career and image.
Right.
So his actions and words inevitably influenced how the song was perceived.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what would have happened if the song hadn't been released so close to the shooting.
Right.
Would it have even been interpreted differently? Would it have become such a touchstone for the East Coast-West Coast rivalry?
It's impossible to know for sure, but I think the timing was crucial.
Okay.
You know, it was just a moment when tensions were already high.
Yeah.
And Who Shot Ya, with its aggressive lyrics and haunting beat, just became a focal point for those anxieties.
And even though we may never know the full truth behind the song's origins
Right.
and its true intent, it's undeniable that Who Shot Ya just remains one of the most iconic and controversial tracks in hip-hop history.
I agree.
It's a reminder of the